comply with the Voting Rights Act. All of the other redistricting criteria are to be met to the degree practicable. This criterion is not. Simply put, districts shall comply with the United States Constitution and the United States Voting Rights Act, period. The proposed revision submitted by the Navajo Nation offers a corrective to each of these issues. I would ask you to please consider this map for your deliberations. I thank each of you for taking on this important and challenging task and for listening. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mayor Paul Deasy. Mayor Deasy, can you hear us?
Oh, sorry about that. Having issues with the mute button here. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak again, and not to belabor, but I wanted to reiterate that the Flagstaff City Council has unanimously is in support of the Coconino County's maps 505 for the legislative districts as well as the congressional district. It is really important that we have competitive districts, not just for Flagstaff, but the surrounding community within the Coconino County. In addition, that Flagstaff is very heavily cut off from some of its closest neighbors who shop here, who work in Flagstaff, who face the same natural disasters, who share the same watershed. And we believe as a community of interest that we are better represented in that manner with the maps presented by Coconino County. So I would just, urge you all to please take that into strong consideration as additional edits are made to the redistricting maps. Thank you.
Thank you. The next three speakers will be Alan Gersten and Linda Guarino and Renee Ward. Alan, can you hear us? Linda, can you hear us?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Alan, go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, thanks very much. And by the way, you've heard this, I'm sure, plenty of times, but I am impressed with the arduous and crazy work that the commission is doing with all the time and energy that you have to expend for it. So thank you all for that. I just wanted to comment that, as many of us know, that Arizona's tourism economy is incredibly important up here in the northern part of Arizona, and I believe we are second in terms of what is generated in terms of the economy. What troubles me about the map is that Prescott is not part of this economic corridor, and it's geographically really quite separated from what we've always known it to be in this area in terms of Flagstaff, Sedona, and the Grand Canyon, as well as the Verde Valley, really sharing an economic interest. I feel strongly that Prescott should not be included with the same congressional district as the Grand Canyon corridor, in that Prescott is separated from this economic district economically and physically, as most of us know to be Mingus Mountain. Prescott should remain as part of a congressional district that also includes the areas of the Colorado River areas. And that's just the short and sweet thought that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Linda Guarino. Linda, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Please proceed.
My name is Linda Guarino, and I live in Doney Park, which is part of the greater Flagstaff area. Arizona already has several so-called safe seats in the current legislative map. One of these is held by Paul Gosar, who was just censured and stripped of all committee assignments because he posted a video depicting violence against women and our president. Mr. Gosar's censure is an embarrassment for Arizona and a loss to his constituents because he can no longer effectively represent their interests in Congress. Despite this, he would probably be reelected in the new CD2 because it leans so strongly Republican. Safe districts encourage extremists like Mr. Gosar to run for office because candidates only need appeal to their base. I don't want any safe districts in Arizona, Democrat or Republican. I want districts that are highly competitive because this will encourage moderates to run for office. And once elected, they will listen to all of their constituents and represent the interests of all Arizonans and not just their own political party. Moderate candidates will also increase turnout because Arizonans can be assured that their votes truly count. Safe districts, on the other hand, depress turnout because why bother if their candidate has no chance to be elected? A proposed congressional map submitted by the Navajo Nation is competitive. Likewise, the maps for Legislative Districts 6 and 7 that was submitted by the Coconino County Board of Supervisors makes each legislative district highly competitive. All three of these maps also honor the other 5 criteria for independent redistricting. I ask you to please adopt these maps. Thank you for listening to me, and thank you for your service on Arizona redistricting.
Thank you. The next speaker is Charlene Nez, followed by Laura Winicky. Charlene, can you hear us? Charlene? Let's move to Laura, and then we'll see if we can get Charlene on the line. Laura, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you for the opportunity to provide input on your draft maps. I'm Laura Hunicke from just outside Flagstaff. Today I'd like to speak to the overall statewide maps you're charged with drawing and go back to this issue of political competitiveness. The Commission was charged in Prop 106 with creating fair and competitive districts. You're to aim for competitiveness where to do so does not cause substantial detriment to the other criteria. The maps we've been using for the past decade show it is possible to have many fairly competitive districts that have passed every legal challenge raised. That is, they've done a good job of meeting all the constitutional criteria. Your current draft maps are not better. In fact, in many respects, they're worse with respect to various criteria, and they're terribly non-competitive overall. Most awful, I find, is the draft legislative map. Of the 30 districts, 24 are non-competitive. Using the selected metric of possible swing votes in the set of 9 statewide elections, only 5 of the 30 show anything other than a 0 to 9 pattern. If your maps adopted, only 1.2 million out of the 7.1 million people in Arizona, 17%, would find themselves in a district with any chance of actual competition. When more than 80% of the voters might as well stay home on election day, your maps are not achieving the primary purpose of the IRC. Please direct the mapping team to re-examine ways to increase the proportion of the state's population served by competitive districts. And thank you for these opportunities to provide input.
Thank you. The next speaker is Charlene Nez. Charlene, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, please
Okay.
proceed.
Okay, thank you. I am Charlene Nez, a lifetime resident of Tuba City, Arizona, and a member of the Navajo Nation. I am fiercely advocating that the Independent Redistricting Commission support, adopt, and approve the recommended draft map submitted by the Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission. This draft provides a competitive and fair congressional election in which my Diné people and other Native American people from the area can fairly participate in, which was provided to all Americans by the Voting Act of 1965. In conclusion, thank you, commissions, for taking the time to volunteer and participate on this very important process that our state must take every 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next is Dieter Neck. Dieter, can you hear us?
Yeah, hi. I'd like to add my 2 bits on this competitiveness. Prop 106, which the voters wrote, they passed. They charged your commission to create fair and competitive districts. And then they list 6 criteria. And unfortunately, they put competitive at the end, which really is the main one, because like the other speakers have said, if you're not in a competitive district, you essentially might as well write it off and you lose all those voters, both from the majority party, a lot of them, and from the minority party. You create the case where you have the extreme people coming in, like we have seen this last year, where all of a sudden our state senators decide they need to challenge and get a forensic audit of the election by, it turns out, people who don't even understand the Arizona election laws. So we have people like that who have come into the legislature because we have this opportunity where the highly or uncompetitive districts, the extreme people can start to come in through the primaries, and that's it. So to me, this is the most important criteria, and I think your mapping team should have used this first. I think maybe they feel happy that they created 12 districts that are mainly one party, 11 districts that are the other party, and some districts.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mary Ellen. Mary Ellen, can you hear us?
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I'm coming to you as a 2nd generation native Arizona. My family came to Arizona. I'm going to start getting terrible. Sorry. My family came to Arizona in 1920, and I was born in Nogales, Arizona, and have spent my entire life here. I've been an advocate for citizenship and citizenry. I've been an educator, and I have seen the state go from having statesmen such as Carl Hayden and Barry Goldwater, and also John McCain, to a questionable anxiety that goes on in our electorate today. I think what I see is that in the past few years, we have actually seen some balance occur in our state voting. And when I look at the possibility of redistricting and restructuring and flipping everything upside down, I think it might also make sense just to stay where we are, to stay with the present districts that we have. I know it's kind of strange to have a district that goes all the way from Flagstaff to Casa Grande. I've lived in both those places, and I understand how people have a struggle with those 2 differences. But at the same time, it's very valuable to have representation that looks at the entire state. We have been able to see balance beginning to develop in our legislature and also at the congressional level, and to try to regenerate new plans, I think might lead us to even more extremism that we've seen develop in our country and our state. I've seen people flying flags that use foul language against our president and people who voted for him. I don't understand that kind of negativism. I understand people having differences of opinion and being, excited about their opinions, but the vitriol we've seen develop has been very heartbreaking. And as, again, a 2nd generation native Arizonan, I think this state has so much to offer in terms of intelligence and our respect for our native populations. I think it's time for us to really make.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Phyllis Schiller. Phyllis, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Please proceed.
Okay. Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Phyllis Schiller, and I am a 41-year resident of Flagstaff and a retired professor from NAU. I have 2 main issues with the current draft maps. CD2 was a highly competitive district. Now, with the addition of Prescott and Western Mojave County, it is now solidly Republican It disenfranchised the many Native American tribes who will not have representation because of the dominant numbers in the Prescott metro area. The second issue is the LD District 6 and 7. It breaks up the greater Flagstaff metro area into 2 legislative districts, the Verde Valley into 3 districts, and Sedona into 2 districts. These new drafts treat communities of interest very unfairly. Recently, a major TV network emanating from Phoenix referred to Representative Gosar, who just got censored from the House of Representatives, as being from Flagstaff. He represents the Prescott and Western Arizona area, not Flagstaff. To me, this shows the lack of understanding and interest in Northern Arizona from the Maricopa area and relegates the importance of our region to second, even third-class status. The Flagstaff metro area is the hub of Northern Arizona. It cannot and should not be divided into 2 districts. I implore the Commission to listen to and hear the concerns of many of us in Northern Arizona. Choose the maps submitted by the Coconino County Board of Supervisors. They represent the fair interests of Northern Arizona. They are endorsed unanimously by the city councils of Flagstaff and Sedona for both the congressional and legislative districts. These maps reflect economic and communities of interest in Northern Arizona while giving the Native American population an opportunity to elect candidates of.
Thank you. The next speaker is Lisa Marshall. Lisa, can you hear us? Let's move to Aubrey Sonderegger. Aubrey, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay. I am speaking today on behalf of a fellow member of Flagstaff, Mr. Daryl Marks. Today, he is a member of the Navajo Nation and a resident of Flagstaff. He was unable to attend today since he is at work on midday on a Friday. I understand that there are conflicts no matter when a meeting is held, but I do feel that this meeting could have been scheduled at a more accessible time. Daryl wishes to lend his voice to supporting the congressional map submitted by the Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission, CDF 010. This map offers a fair and competitive option that does not compromise the Voting Rights Act or any of the other requirements that this commission is required to adhere to. Our Native peoples deserve the right to represent, have a chance to represent people that will represent them and reflect their values in our state. And so we are advocating, Daryl is advocating for the Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission map. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Freddie. Freddie, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Please proceed.
My name is Freddy Hamilton. I live in the village of Oak Creek. A functioning democracy requires the push and pull of opposing points of view if it is to remain healthy. Proposition 106 was put in place to aid in that by ensuring that we have competitive voting districts. Such districts encourage candidates to debate the issues, hopefully find a middle ground that'll attract the most voters to their point of view. That is the glory of our democracy. But your proposed maps for Northern Arizona are weighted to favor only one side of the debates. And it is for that reason that I implore you to reconsider the lines you have drawn. Instead, follow the LDF 50 and 51 maps, so that we might guarantee robust debates and encourage candidates representing all sides of the issues to run for office in our districts. Otherwise, we risk cutting the very heart out of our democracy, and then we could all find ourselves traveling down some very dangerous paths in this country. The fate of our democracy is in your hands. I thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Deborah Dijk. Deborah, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Hello, my name is Deborah Dijk. I live in Maricopa County, so I've never done this before. I apologize because I couldn't get on the meetings here locally, so they said I could join this one. Native Arizonan, and I'm here today to give you information just about my community of interest. So I actually live near the 101 and Baseline on the west side of Dobson Ranch, which is a neighborhood, and it's comprised of 3 different precincts in Legislative District 18. So my community here currently is made up mostly of single family homes, although there's obviously some, you know, apartments and condominiums with very active neighbors, very healthy neighbors. They like to get out and walk and ride bike and things like that. They mostly know each other and they're very committed to helping each other out. I noticed that most people do take their own cars, and there's a lot of local businesses close by, and those are patronized by my neighbors. So in terms of my community of interest, I know there's talk about changing Legislative District 18. I definitely utilize like the Tempe Town Lakes area, the mall, the Tempe Mall there along the 202, the Chandler Mall along the 101. I usually travel about as far south as like the 202 and maybe slightly beyond. That's kind of the area of my interest, you know, the kind of to the north, south, east, and west. Most of my doctors and dentists are in Chandler or maybe as far east as Country Club in Mesa. So because many stores and businesses are so readily available, I really don't have to travel that far, although I do travel into Maryville for church. But usually I'm kind of in those areas like I-10, Broadway Country Club, and maybe the 202 to the south. And so I look at that area of community of interest. I would appreciate the Dobson Ranch community and maybe the Tempe Lakes community where I used to live kind of being kept in.
County and
Thank you. The next speaker is Lisa Marshall. Lisa, can you hear us? Lisa, we see that you're unmuted. Lisa, can you hear us? Okay, we'll come back to Lisa. There's another speaker, Linda Edgar, who we don't have, I'm sorry, Sharon Edgar. We don't have a microphone next to you, so we can't unmute you. Sharon, if you could log back in with a computer or phone that has a microphone so that we can hear you, that would be great. And then I think our next speaker is, I believe Austin Aslan was on the line. Austin, can you unmute yourself? I don't see him. All right, Austin, go ahead.
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yep, please proceed.
Wonderful, thank you. So I'm Austin Aslan. I'm a Flagstaff City Council member. I'm also the chair of the Coconino Plateau Water Advisory Council, which is a large and diverse body of water stakeholders and experts up here in Northern Arizona. I want to thank you all very much for your service and for the hard work that you're doing. I think it's really important that you guys do not put Prescott and Flagstaff in the same congressional district. I actually grew up in Prescott, and now I'm a long-term resident of Flagstaff, and I love both communities, and they're both great assets to the state of Arizona. But from my personal experience, Prescott and Flagstaff are entirely incompatible and would present enormous challenges for any congressperson constantly trying to reconcile vastly opposing issues and values. This is particularly true from a water perspective. Prescott is ruled by a groundwater active management district that is failing, and Flagstaff is not ruled by an active management district, but is voluntarily enacting to great success its own management efforts. I'd like to say something personally to you guys. You know, making incredibly strong partisan districts creates a cognitive dissonance between what local constituents are asking for and what far-off political powers dictate. We run a very real risk of encouraging extremism when our party primaries decide elections. You know, right now we've got a guy from Lord knows where waiting until this process is done to swoop in here and plant a flag to run for the district. He's eyeing the district because the way it's proposed, he'll waltz into office. Is that kind of outsider going to understand the tribal needs of our region? our water issues, the vastly different forest health concerns between Prescott and the Peaks? Is that what we want for Northern Arizona? Is that in the best interest of Republicans or Democrats? Is that the kind of choice independents want, who are about a third of the state everywhere? So this country is tearing itself apart right now, and we need to be mindful and thoughtful about creating districts that create an opportunity for healing and actual dialogue. That's not going to happen in front of the television cable news channels. It's not going to happen unless our politicians are forced to wrestle with the nuances and overlaps that exist in our politics. You guys are doing this role because...
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sharon Edgar. Sharon, can you hear us?
Hi. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
My name is Sharon Edgar. I live in Flagstaff. I agree with everything Austin just said. I also want to echo the sentiments of my friends in Sedona, Verde Valley, and Oak Creek. Our community of interest has a sense of stewardship for our residents and our natural surroundings. We share the same housing, workforce, water, and forest health issues. We belong in the same legislative district. Please consider legislative district maps LDF 0050 and LDF 0051. Those LD6 and LD7 maps were submitted by the Coconino County Board of Supervisors on October 27 and unanimously endorsed by the city councils of Flagstaff, Sedona, and Clarkdale. LDF 0051 meets the Voting Rights Act requirement to not dilute votes of a minority community that would be unable to elect candidates of their choosing because of racially polarized block voting. It also does not pack that district with voters, including Native American voters, who can make a neighboring district competitive. In the draft map, LD6 has a vote spread of over 42%. The neighboring LD7 has a vote spread of almost 30%. High vote spreads like 42% and 30% discourage voting. Those districts should be drawn to be more competitive. The Coconino County map has vote spread of 15.84% for Native American voting rights district and less than 1% for a competitive Republican neighboring district. Please give LDF 0050 and LDF 0051 some consideration. Thank you very much. I appreciate your service to all of Arizona.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dawn Schackner. Dawn, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Okay. Hi, my name is Dawn Schackner. I live in Doney Park area of Flagstaff. I'm speaking in behalf of myself. I'm respectfully asking the Commission to consider adopting the Navajo Nation Human Rights Draft Proposal, and here are the reasons why. When the IRC Commission was formed, my understanding of the criteria was that to the extent possible, competitive districts should be favored, when to do so would create no significant detriments to the other goals. The proposed draft map takes a highly competitive district and makes it non-competitive to the detriment of Native Americans without justification. Native Americans deserve to have a voice. If a party is sure to win, why would we want to vote? Don't we want all Arizonians to be engaged? Competition means that candidates must pay attention to all of their constituents. Where one party is sure to win, the representative can ignore constituents outside their party. I ask the Commission to strongly consider the Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission proposal, known as CDF 010. I thank the Commission for hearing our concerns and for their very hard work in making these most difficult decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Cora Phillips. Cora, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Cora Phillips from Navajo Nation, and I serve on the Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission. And I speak for the Navajo people who don't have internet capacity, for those elders who are unable to speak the English language, but who have been faithful voters. And lastly, for our veterans who believed and fought for America's democratic principles of fairness and justice. Congressional District 2 has the largest concentration of Native American votes in the United States. And I strongly believe that we deserve a chance to elect congressional representation who will truly represent our interests in a competitive district. Will certainly give us that chance or opportunity. A majority are registered Democrats, and in the proposed district map, the representative will be chosen in the Republican primary. This will surely diminish our voice, creating a significant detriment to being part of a fair and competitive map. Competition basically means that candidates must pay attention to all their constituents. Where one party is certainly will win, they know they will win, the representative can also give or ignore constituents outside of their party. The draft map has taken a highly competitive district, and it's really unfair to make it solidly Republican. This is not necessary to accommodate the other 5 constitutional criteria. The addition of all of Yavapai County to Congressional District 2 will rigorously dilute the voting power of Native Americans. I fully support the congressional map submitted by the Navajo Nation. And please redraw the district lines for Congressional District number 2. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Renee Ward. Renee, can you hear us? Renee, can you hear us? We can hear you.
Now can you hear me?
Yep, please proceed.
Okay. Technical difficulty there. I agree with the last speaker, and I am currently, the way that District 9 is set up, I live in Maricopa County. I live in the area of North Peoria, Vistancia, near the 17 and the 303 freeway, where there's an enormous amount of construction and building that's going on. And we are probably, if not the fastest growing area of Arizona, we are pretty close to it. We have been included in District 9 Congressional District, and we do not resemble any of that district whatsoever. That is a very rural district. We do our shopping and schools and all of that in Peoria and Glendale and Sun City. And I would advocate that we are nothing like Wickenburg or Prescott, that maybe instead of having Prescott in District 5, it should be moved to District 9, which is rural, as is Prescott, and much of that area in that the area around Prescott. I know Prescott is up and moving too, but it still is, in my mind anyway, a rural area of the state, and definitely my area, District 28, is not.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christy Blackman. Christy, can you hear us? Christy?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Hi. So I wanted to talk to you about District 6 and District 7. I would like to definitely keep Flagstaff in District 6. If you look at the Navajo Nation, they had a massive loss of 40,000 citizens that left the Navajo Nation according to the census, which puts that's why they're having to reach out and get other areas. in both the congressional district and also the legislative district. But there is a large population of Indigenous in Flagstaff. Many of them shop in Flagstaff. We over here in Navajo County, over by Snowflake Pine Top Lakeside, we tend to stay over here. We do most of our shopping up in Pine Top, up in Snowflake, or even going to the valley. Rarely do we go to Flagstaff. So I am a proponent of keeping Flagstaff with District 6. And I also love the way you have Congressional District 2 set up. Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Meal, that was our last speaker for now that is logged in. I think we are all set.
We certainly want to thank everyone who spoke today and thank for the incredible amount of input that we have been getting throughout these different meetings we've had. We invite you to go online and submit a map using our mapping software at irc.az.gov. Our next business meeting will be a week from Tuesday. We will not be meeting next week, which is Thanksgiving week, but we'll meet the following Tuesday. And our next in-person meeting will be tomorrow and in Prescott at 10 a.m. Lori, any other information we should pass on about future meetings?
We will have our next meeting tomorrow in Prescott, and then we'll have another meeting on the Hopi Reservation at Kyotsumobee, and then our next business meeting is on November 30th at 8 a.m. And you can always submit comments through the irc.az.gov website.
And with that, we want to thank you all, and we hereby adjourn the meeting. Thank you.